Welcome back to the Media7 summer series where I'm talking cookery and books with Alison and Simon Holst. Now, you've probably seen it more than once, the sepia free sheet at the cafe. You may even have wondered where it came from. Well, we sent Jose Barbosa in search of the source of coffee news.
Oh, I love coffee. I have to come here to this nondescript cafe to drink it and to think about where my life went wrong. And while I'm here, I take 7 or 10 minutes and read this, the coffee news. If you've ever popped into a cafe or a takeaways, chances are you've picked up a copy of the coffee news. It's a weekly one-sheet containing advertising and produced content, including quotable quotes, what's happening and everybody's talking, a selection of inspirational stories.
Dog hero. Chows may seem like lovable, cuddly dogs, but there's one named Jared that's not afraid to messle with a bear. Jared's owner, Donna Perot, and her other chow, Misha, could have been seriously injured. Luckily, Jared came to the rescue, flinging himself at the bear and allowing Perot and Misha to escape unharmed. Perot, who initially got Jared from a shelter, didn't know that her pet would one day save her.
Coffee News is a franchise. Becoming a franchisee means you're responsible for selling advertising space in your area. It's available all over the country, but the head office can be found here in Pukekohe, in this renovated garage. And this is Helen Fisher, Director of Coffee News New Zealand.
We have a saying in Coffee News that first of all you sell yourself, and then you sell Coffee News as a concept, and then you sell the advertising last.
The coffee news is ubiquitous, and it comes as something of a shock to learn it's not a New Zealand invention.
Coffee News was created in 1988 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada, and it was founded by Jean Dong, a prestigious international expert in advertising and marketing techniques. When she designed the publication, she incorporated more than 17 different super learning and subliminal techniques to encourage people to read it.
For example, most people think all these little ads are square, but they're not. They've actually got rounded corners, which makes them appear softer, and it's easier on the eye, as we say.
And the color is no accident. Studies have shown that the sepia color of the publication transmits professionality, friendliness, likableness, and in short, trust.
It's not the correct Coffee News colour that it's meant to be.
Sorry?
It's not the correct Coffee News colour that it's meant to be.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's more of a tan colour in Canada and the States, but we weren't able to get the correct paper here in New Zealand, so we got dispensation to use an alternative.
I don't know, it inspires my trust.
I look after other countries in the Asia-Pacific, sort of Oceania region. It's actually a really vast territory. It's about half the world when you look at it geographically. Culturally, it's very different. There's not just the communication differences that we have to contend with, it's the culture as well. For example, in Turkey and the Gulf region, they definitely can't have horoscopes because of being a Muslim country. So they have a dispensation, which other countries in the world don't have, to actually replace those with something else.
Do you know what they replace them with?
I think they use Sudoku.
Do you know how enjoyable it is to read something this nice? I don't know what it is about this newspaper, but I even read the advertisements.
We tell our advertisers, you're either on the front or the back. You can't be lost in the middle of Coffee News. And so if you wanted to get the same exposure in the Herald, for instance, you'd need an ad 21 times that size for the same visibility. This is how it's supplied out to the franchisees. They get to drop in their own ads in those spaces there.
I like how there's little Santa hats.
Yeah, that's how we do that for our Christmas editions.
And the main characteristic that makes it such a highly regarded publication is its positive outlook. It makes people smile. There's no bad news in here.
I love it. I mean, it's not like working for a living. It's just a really fun thing to be involved in.
Now, we've had a lot of fun with the Coffee News today, but the truth is that I really, really like it. And here's why. In its 21 years of existence, the Coffee News has not changed one bit. That's a rare state of affairs in a modern world that often values innovation for its own sake. The Coffee News does what it does and does it well. There's no pressure here to appear edgy or trend-setting.
And you know what? I think that's really cool. I think I landed on my keys, actually.
Jose Barbosa with that report. Simon, you've grown into cooking at the same time as cafe culture arrived in New Zealand. What do you make of the impact of it?
Oh, I think it's, again, going back to the social things, cafes are great places, so much happens at them now, whether it's people sitting with a cup of coffee but on their own, but more often it's, people interacting, groups of friends, people having meetings. It's amazing.
It struck me that all of a sudden we discovered that we were a Mediterranean country.
Well, I think, yeah, probably. I mean, I guess we imported the culture to some extent, so, it's loosely modelled on that, but I think we've got our own style now. I think I heard something recently about someone setting up a Kiwi-style cafe in London, and each culture does take things and do their own thing with them.
So, what else characterises our style?
Well, the way the food that's available, the types of food that are available, how they're displayed, that it is a pretty casual place. I think that's one of the Kiwi elements to me.
And we've also had the rise in general of foodie culture. I mean, you look at something like the food show. Thousands of people go to that every year.
Yes, it's very interesting.
It is. It's fascinating, isn't it?
I don't think they would have 10, 20 years ago. Not to the extent they do now.
So what's changed? Are we much more interested in food, or do we think we can do it now or something?
All of those things, but it's nice to watch somebody doing something that you haven't done and you'd like to know how to do. And I guess it boils down to that. And that's the reason that people buy recipe books too, to read through and think, oh, that's nice, I'll try that. So there is definitely an interest, and certainly there are more men cooking. But I get worried because I feel that there's some children who've never seen their parents cooking, and that is a worry, and especially since many schools no longer have cooking rooms.
Well, as a boy, I was never allowed to cook at school anyway. I think I had to learn in my 20s.
You probably had to do woodwork or something.
I did,
like
yes.
that.
And I hated it. I actually hated it. I mean, that must be sort of quite nice for you to be doing what you do in an era when it's actually not just okay for men to cook, it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess it comes back to growing up. I mean, we were never brought up with clear distinctions between roles, I don't think. So, I mean, it was never something that's given me any trouble, but yeah, it is. I mean, it is a curious industry because a lot of the big name cooks, chefs are men, but then, cooking for households is generally still done by women, and it's funny sort of division of labour there.
We've also seen the rise of organic and free range and little artisan producers, pretty much hand making things like sauces. Yeah. How's that affected what you do? Has that had an impact on it?
It's great. It is, again, one of the interesting things about food is there's always something different to work with. There's a new product being grown, or someone, a base to work with, or whatever. It really is.
So it's okay. You don't have to make all your own sauces. It's
No,
not a religion.
No, I mean, there's a lot you can do from scratch, but there's a lot of other things you wouldn't want to do from scratch, and it's just not practical. Most people are cooking after work, under a bit of pressure. You really don't need to be doing everything from scratch then.
It's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons that men are cooking more, because women are working, and working long hours too. So whoever gets home first, I would hope, starts cooking.
Yeah, and of course, if both partners are working, there's a demand for things that can be made quickly and easily.
Yes.
Is that kind of an important part of what you're doing now? That people need solutions in the kitchen?
Certainly, and we're always thinking about quick and easy.
Well, if you ask people what they want, it's always quick, easy, and healthy.
Yes,
those
that's
are
right.
the three
Those
descriptors.
things.
Those are the primary things they'll say.
Yeah, the healthy one's an interesting one because, as I noted in that Graham Kerr piece, he kind of set the tone for belatedly for the idea of healthy food. Do you feel a duty to do that?
Well, we've written some books on healthy, that deal particularly with healthy food, but I like to feel that most of our food is healthy food. We don't go overboard with cream and things like that. We just moderation in all things. And fresh food and growing things, all of those things. Because what comes out of your garden tastes best.
Yes, it does.
Sort of about moderation rather than prohibition, I think, is, there's no point in saying they can't have butter, but let's just, we can reduce that a little bit and no one will notice.
Of course, the books that you've written, either Alison's books or the ones together, have been a phenomenon. They have sold to generations of New Zealanders, but we now live in the era where it seems to be all about the internet. Has that had an effect on what you do? How's it going to change things?
Not at all. By all means look at the internet, but still it's good to go to a cupboard or bookshelf, take out a book, see something there and think, oh yes, I'll make that and I'll make that tonight. It's easier when it's like that. And
a book that gets dirty in the kitchen too.
Well, we often say we like to think we write dirty books because our books are not coffee table books. They are taken out into the kitchen and used and thumbed through and things dropped on them, all the rest of it. You know what are the popular recipes when you look through a person's books, see the dirty pages.
What's your dirtiest book?
I've got a joy of cooking at home that I drag out if you're looking for your swan recipe. Just about anything you're unfamiliar with is a good one. I still use my own books actually. My own books quite a lot as well.
I do actually.
By the time you've written as many books as we've written, you tend to forget some of the early things. So it's quite nice to look through and suddenly think, oh, haven't made that for years. I'll try it.
So what's new for you guys? Is there something that's exciting you at the moment?
There's always a couple of things in the pipeline. We did a bread book about 10 years ago, and we're going to redo that because I think a lot of people are rediscovering sort of bread making at the moment, and also talking about teaching people to cook. Working on a book of sort of basics, where to get started. Everything from how to boil an egg.
So it's kind of at either end, because I know someone who's a computer programmer and is taken to baking bread, and he has to have exactly the specialist yeast. So I can see that becoming yet another specialist area.
Absolutely, and bread baking is a huge thing all on its own. It is. It's an art and a science, and again, that's one of the nice things about food. It is this balance and juggle between art and science all the time.
And it's just to have something new. One of our latest books is our barbecue book, and it's sold like hot cakes because there were things that people didn't think about doing on a barbecue. For example, Simon decided to make naan bread on the barbecue, and it's delicious. And a number of vegetables and all sorts of things that go with the barbecue, and so people just like to look through something. It's kind of that blend of the absolutely traditional and conventional, which is going outside and firing up the barbie and doing something new with it. Yes,
encourage people to push their boundaries. I think that's something Alison's done for 40 years. Is just she's trusted, and she can encourage people to try something different, and they will, and you move on. If you go back to the early book, someone was commenting recently that there's very little garlic in them. It's amazing. It's funny to think back to a world without garlic in food.
I can remember when I was a small girl and we went somewhere and it was an Italian friend, and she put a lot of garlic in it, and my mother was quite shocked. But New Zealanders didn't grow garlic then. It was...
No, I recall it being particularly unusual to use it and almost antisocial.
Yes, it was. But you see, the other things, we travel around the world these days, and whenever I go away, I always come back with a whole pile of new recipes that I've been making with my friends in North America or in England or wherever, in France. And it's nice to bring back some of those ideas and say, okay, I'll modify this slightly so that it suits New Zealanders, and see how they like it.
So just in conclusion, is there anything in what you do that you haven't achieved yet, that you haven't done yet? Is there anything else you'd like to do?
No, just more of the same, I think.
We really enjoy it.
Well, carry on. We have to leave this conversation, so thank you to Alison and Simon Holst. After the break, John Hawkesby's life as a bon vivant and the wine trade's social media star.